Hey Liz,
Hi.
how are you?
Good. Good
That was
morning.
fast. Good morning.
Yeah. I am a
Yeah,
teacher
typically
at heart.
the other ones I had, it took a few minutes, so we'll probably wait a little bit just for people to join. So I think
Okay.
Instagram is telling people to, you stop by. Um, but yeah, thanks for joining. It's short notice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I was gonna say, I think yeah. So again, we'll just wait a few minutes and then I'll kind of do formal introductions here.
Okay. Sounds good.
But I figure do it out here on the Saturday just because of time and also because a lot of people I've noticed Saturday mornings are the time when people are more active. But I don't know if that's just too. There you go. So all right. So figure it'd be a good time.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Hey everyone. Oh well, so far one person, but we'll give it here a second or so. Um, yeah, had a chance to stop by and do a little grocery shopping at the farmers market, so it was good. Got a chance to come back right on time.
Oh.
So yeah. Da, da. Well, yeah, I guess we'll get started regardless. This is gonna be recorded anyway, so this is good, right? So, all right, yeah, just I guess as a form introduction from my side, right? This platform, Abundancia Mindset, is mainly about personal finance, right? And a lot of it is kind of tackling things through stages, right? One is, how do we get out of debt? Two is how do we save for emergency fund? How do we save for a purpose? Three is increasing our income, right? And part of that is, maybe renegotiating our salaries, maybe jump into a new job, right, that pays more. And third, one of my favorite things is like doing side hustles, right? So creating extra, flows of income, basically, right? Or streams of income. So that's kind of that's where you kind of come into here, right? But again, being that this is a personal finance space, I wanted to ask you and start off with, well, tell us a little bit about yourself, but also, kind of touch a little bit on what was the relationship with money growing up.
Okay. Well, I am a homeschool mom,
Hmm.
which means I don't have a job except homeschooling, which means
Okay.
I don't have um, money on my part. So my
Gotcha.
husband does, and he's okay with it. He's very supportive. It's very difficult to homeschool with only one income. So that's when I started to, hey, they're close to, I have two girls, so like their baby clothes doesn't, you know, work for them anymore. Let me try to make some money off of it.
Gotcha.
So that's how I started. Now growing up with money, I think I was pretty good. I mean, I've heard of I guess people getting money from their parents, like weekly allowance, and we didn't,
Gotcha. Yeah.
which is not normal for us. But we were okay with it. It was our norm to just go with the flow with our parents. Um, Once I actually started making money, I started to save it. So whatever money I made by babysitting or working at Hollywood Video, it was for college, for food, for gas. That was basically it. That kept me going and trying to go into my university. So once I graduated, that's when I was teaching at a public school, and I was actually making money, like actually getting the
Yeah.
paychecks. And
Actual
I was like,
salary. Yeah.
wow, this is the real world. So I was able to buy things that I couldn't buy before, or go to restaurants, and you start learning about money. You start learning where your money's going, spending it on my students, and it's just a learning process. So I went from having my income to getting married, still working as a teacher. And then once I had my first daughter, I just couldn't work anymore. I wanted to be with her.
Yeah, no, and a lot of times that's the kind of trade-off, right?
Yeah.
That want to stay with your children or you want to continue working full time, right? But I know you also did, kind of online teaching for a while. Is that correct?
Yes, so once I was homeschooling with my first daughter, then I got pregnant with my second daughter, and that's, more things that we had to buy for the baby. I was still unsure of how to get income besides actually selling my baby clothes or baby toys or my maternity clothes. I'm like, well, you know what? A little bit goes a long way for me. So I'm like, well, I'm able to buy them books or do this or buy them crayons, just little things here and there. And then, you just go on Pinterest, you go on Instagram, and you're searching and things pop up. And you're like, oh, this homeschool mom teaches online. No, that shouldn't be for me. And it took me actually a whole entire year to actually have the guts to apply. And I was able to teach for 3 years online to Chinese students, and it was so much fun. It was flexible at my own pace, early in the morning, and then I was after working for 1 hour to 2 hours every morning. I was able to homeschool my kids. So I was able to make some kind of money to provide for the homeschool needs.
Yeah, no, that's really amazing. And I was going to ask, I guess sidetracking a little bit, but like for when it comes to teaching online, right? I know there's a lot of websites, for teaching English and whatnot, right? Is
Yeah.
there any kind of qualifications or requirements that are needed to do teaching online?
It depends on the company. I don't do it anymore because the Republic of China changed the rules. So a lot of the companies that were hiring American Canadian teachers, they shut down, which is I became unemployed.
Interesting.
So a
Wow.
lot of, there's a couple here and there that you can still apply to.
Mhm.
I haven't because it really was heartbreaking just waking up one morning and seeing that you weren't employed and you were like, where's my students? And I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
can't go through that anymore. But they did need, some of them needed you to take like a test, but it was like an online test. They just wanted to know your background information. You didn't have to have a teaching degree, but if
Interesting.
you had, the positivity and the patience, then they liked you, then you got hired.
Yeah, and that's part of it, right? Like I think a lot of I've heard stories of people that like to travel to teach English, right? But like
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned, there's a lot of things that come from being a teacher. The part of it is patience, part of it is being structure, and not everyone has it, right? Probably don't have it, but anyway, so this happens, after the pandemic happens, the Republic of China changed their thing, so now you're left without that extra income, and is that when you kind of start looking into selling your baby clothes and things like that online, or how did you actually start doing that?
Okay, so I started once my daughter was growing. You have all these baby clothes.
Yeah.
So I started to just selling through there. But then I stopped selling because I just needed a little bit of money just for homeschooling.
Hmm.
Everything, all the other bills were paid by my husband. So he's like, you're okay. You do whatever you want, just stay at home. Um, Once I started teaching online for 3 years, that was it. It was just teaching online. 3 years, I was happy, homeschooling every day, every morning, teaching online, and then it stopped. And then I'm like, okay, well, I know what to fall back on, which is selling. So I was going through toys, going through things, my clothes, anything. A lot of family members heard about it, like
Hmm.
Diaz,
Yeah.
my cousins, and they're like, hey, we have some things for you. And they would just give them to me for free.
Oh,
And so I
nice.
would
Yeah.
just drive over there on the weekend, get it, take pictures, and resell it. So it was easy for me. I learned a lot through reselling. And I already had experience when my daughter was like 2 years old to now she's 8. So I learned a lot through reselling things that my family members were giving to me just to help support my homeschooling.
Gotcha. And can you touch a little bit, just kind of going back to the basics, like what is online selling or reselling? Because I think a lot of people might hear about it, especially when you go to Facebook Marketplace, etc. But people don't realize that that could be like an actual business, right? Or option. Hmm.
Yes. If I wasn't homeschooling, I could make more money reselling, but you know, that wasn't, yeah, I mean, I believe it. I've experienced some things where it's, wow, you know, you can actually make money, but my focus was homeschooling. So
Gotcha.
as long as I made something, I was happy. But yes, I do believe that if you dedicate yourself, if you start very small by selling maybe some of your items, you learn and you see what is selling, how much it's selling for. There's so many different platforms. Like eBay is one, but I'm very scared of eBay. I
Hmm.
have never sold on eBay. I'm not there yet. So I tried it small, which was something with Mercari. So
Hmm.
Mercari was where I started. You kind of have to get used to their platform. You learn things here and there, like the shipping. It actually changed recently where the shipping prices went up compared to when I started, which was what, like 5 years ago.
And is that
Uh,
for when you talk about the change in pricing, is that for you to list your items or like the fee that they take once, you know, the payment is okay?
both the fee and the shipping price. So, you know, you have FedEx, UPS, USPS to work with. So you have options of how, let's say you're trying to sell a book
Hmm.
and it's the shipping price will change depending on who do you go with. So FedEx could be like $4, USPS could be like 5, UPS can be like 7. So you're like, okay, well, which one would um, my customers want? So sometimes they let me choose or I choose, and we work with the shipping, which has changed, and it's not like $4 anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, things can get pretty expensive and inflation is not really helping much. But so, okay, so what, I guess could you touch a little bit on the platforms that you've kind of had experience with and maybe those that you would recommend for someone who's just getting started and like what are the differences? Because I know there's, you know, OfferUp, Poshmark, like there's so many, especially if you're doing clothes, I might do better in one versus another. Tell us a little bit about kind of the platforms that you had experience and maybe, you know, as a, again, keeping in mind that there's a lot of, you know, viewers that might not know anything, right? So,
Okay. I started with Mercari, and then I'm like, you know what? Some things weren't selling there. So what I did was I would grab that one T-shirt or jeans, and I would post it on um, Mercari, and then I would post it on OfferUp, and I would post it on Depop and Poshmark. Is that the one? Poshmark? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, yeah, that's one I think.
Okay, yeah. So I would post the same thing on all four of them around the same price. Shipping, again, depending on the company, the shipping
Mhm.
will be different. I don't know why. The fees are different. And I wanted to actually see where it would sell the most, who would actually buy the stuff. And from there, I decided to, okay, you know what? Depop isn't liking my items, is not buying any of my items. I shouldn't be wasting my time here. So then I just canceled everything from Depop. And I focused on the other three. I went, okay, well, Poshmark is liking my items. And they're like, heart, 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 I like this, but they're not buying anything. And I'm like, well, you know, out of 10 items, I sold one. It's not working for me. So I canceled Poshmark as the same. And then I went to Mercari, which was where I was selling the most, and I just stuck with them. So that's why I just focused on that one. So for somebody else, I think you just have to kind of try them all and see where you're actually selling it, who's actually buying your items. And the last one would be OfferUp. So
Okay.
OfferUp is in person, and now they have shipping where you can actually ship, but I've never tried their shipping. Um,
Do you,
I totally, uh-huh.
oh no, sorry. I was gonna say, do you find it's interesting the offer up. I didn't realize that it was only for pickup, but do you find it easier or more easier selling locally or online? Like as far as like shipping out, I would assume that you get more reach selling it in abroad, but I was wondering how have has your experience been in doing local kind of, you know,
Yeah, yes. Online, you get more exposure. There's more people looking at it, liking it, and maybe actually buying it. The only thing is some items that you would want to sell, like books, if you have like, like university books or any type of big books, shipping is a lot. So if you're
Yeah.
trying to sell like a $5 book, or let's say like a textbook, and you're trying to sell it for $5, the shipping will be like $10 to $12, and it's not worth it. Whereas you can try OfferUp in person, and they're like, hey, I actually want that book, and try to sell it for $5 to $10 because there's no shipping. And it depends on the item. It depends on, that's why I posted on both. I posted
Yeah.
on OfferUp, and then I posted here. And if it sells online, then okay, they paid the shipping. Off it goes. If it doesn't, then I'll try OfferUp and stick with OfferUp, which is in person. Now, in person, as a mom who has my two daughters all day, every day, was challenging. It was a little bit scary. Uh,
Yeah.
but, me and my husband tried it together, and he said, as long as you feel safe, there's a lot of things that you have to look out for when you are meeting in person. So one thing would be looking at let's say somebody wants to buy in person. I don't meet them at my house unless my husband is home. I meet them at a public area, usually the closest store to me, because I have my two daughters. So I'm not going to drive a whole entire hour for $10. So I'm like, if you want an item, drive closer to me for $10. And it's been helping me a lot to just meet at the same location. And knowing that some of the customers, making sure that some of the customers actually have ratings or good reviews. Because if they don't, then there's no reason for me to sell them. And in OfferUp, they have messages, right? So they can offer you a message or give you their phone numbers, but I don't do any of that. They can be sometimes insistent when they're messaging you, and you don't know if it's a woman or a man. And I would rather just, you know what, I don't want to deal with this for $10, $20. I'll go with somebody else. So just being careful. You don't, at the beginning, when I was doing OfferUp, I thought I need to make money, so I would rather meet anyone. And I'm like, no, you know what, that's not safe. Just because you needed that money, you needed that help, and somebody was like, I'll give you $25, just meet me an hour away. I'm like, you know what, I had to really double think that. It's not worth it. Somebody will come along, and if it's, even if that item is sitting there for 2 months, somebody will come along, and that's usually what happens. I mean, you just wait and you wait and you wait.
Gotcha. So I guess two things. One is the security of it. Well, not the security, but the safety of it, safety piece of it, right? So meet at a public location. Typically, I think there's places like, where there's safe transactions. I don't know if every city has it, but it's typically like in front of like a police kind of area. And
that's true.
Area specific for, kind of that transaction, right?
Yes.
I remember I used to always have a friend come with me. He had license to carry, let's just say that. So it kind of, to your point, you do need that the safety kind of piece of it, right? But I personally haven't had any bad experiences. I've done like Facebook Marketplace. So kind of to your point, a lot of times is, I plan it out. If I'm going to a restaurant and I just say, hey, well, let's meet over here in front of that restaurant, right? And it's public, a lot of people, but I'm glad that you, especially for a lot of moms, right? People that are looking after kids and things like that. I think this is very important to highlight. So yeah, thanks for that. I guess the other thing is the thing you touched on right now was sometimes you have to wait for 2 months or so, right? So I guess would the other piece of it be have patience, or put more, maybe offer more items, because eventually one of them will bite?
Oh yeah, you can change your pricing. So I usually I have an item, I look at it online, so I go to OfferUp, Mercari, even eBay, and I try to see how much they're selling it for. So let's say they're selling it for $40, whatever item it is. I'm like, well, on eBay, I think it tells you if it's been sold or not and how long ago it's sold. So if it's recent and it's sold for $48, I'm like, hey, maybe somebody else would want it. So I would post the item. Again, on OfferUp in Mercari for $40. They will have to pay for shipping. And if it doesn't sell within a month or maybe even 2 weeks, depending on how fast, I guess, you want to sell this item, then you can lower the price, you know, like by $5, $2, and see if anybody would buy it. So yeah, the pricing, I do my research really quickly, take the nice, clean photos,
Yeah.
make sure the area is clean. You want to make sure to be honest, you know, when you're describing it. And then posting it, and then patience, waiting for the item to sell. If it doesn't sell, I usually, you know, whatever item it is, I ask friends around, hey, you know, I have this item. Do you want it? You know, if it's something that I think it will benefit somebody else. If it really hasn't sold for like 5 months or something, I move on.
Gotcha.
I'm like, okay, I'll just give it to a friend or do this or donate it. But it's usually a lot of the items are, again, from my aunts, from my cousins, or from us, from within our home.
Gotcha. And I guess another thing you touched on is on the posting, right? So what are some of the considerations or things that, you know, if I'm selling, like you said, you know, maybe a book, right? Or clothing especially, right? What are some things that you think are a must for that item to, you know, potentially sell?
Let me see. Okay, well, I guess I always look at let's say my daughter's clothes, making sure that there's no stains, there's no rips. If there is, let's say there's a vintage item that is ripped, then make sure to be honest about it, describe it, take that photo. Another thing will be the lighting. So you want to make sure that it's nice and clear, show front and back, inside of the clothing if you can. Again, take photos if it's, you know, if it has a small stain or if it doesn't.
Yep.
So I guess be honest, description, the lighting, the photos. I think that's it. I mean, that's all. Post it as soon as you can and you just wait.
I do wonder, like in when you're blogging or you're posting things, right? Like even with an Instagram, like it's best to be descriptive, right? I wonder how does that whole, because the whole search engine optimization. So my assumption would be that be descriptive as possible so that your items can show up in the search. Is that correct? Or
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I am very descriptive. I usually put if it has a brand, I usually start with, I use like actually a template. So it says brand and name of the brand. There's no brand, I put unknown. I put the size, the color, the material, and then a little description of if it's clean, if it's used, if it's new, does it have tags or not, toys, if it has batteries or not, what kind of batteries it would need. I basically do the template, do it one time, post it on Mercari, copy the template, post it on OfferUp, copy the template, post it on Depop, and that's it. You're done with that item. So then, yeah.
No, I was gonna say, is there a fee to put the items for sale or no, or until they get?
Not for Mercari or for OfferUp, no.
Okay, that's good. And I was gonna say that's another, I guess, thing would be to consider which ones charge you a fee just to put the listings out there, right?
Yeah.
I guess another question would be, have you had how does returns work, or have you had a situation where there's returns that are needed?
No returns, but lost items I've had on my end and on their end. So I bought one item, it said that it was at my doorstep and it wasn't. So both, we're not OfferUp, but Mercari, they were really good about it. They give you your money back, and they pay the other person because it was shipping's fault.
Gotcha.
So I really like that about them. And then on my end, it was the same thing where I shipped it, I kept the receipt, I took a photo of the receipt, and it wasn't my fault, it wasn't their fault. So the same thing, I got my money back, I got paid, and they got their money back.
Gotcha. Is there a, so I didn't know this, I guess, because I'm so used to buying things that already have a tracking, right?
Um,
And I sent out a mail. I didn't buy tracking. I didn't realize that that was extra. So is that another thing that you would suggest people to do as well? Or does it automatically generate a tracking number so that way you can
oh,
give it to,
yeah, it's automatic.
it's
For,
automatic? Okay.
yeah, at least for the companies that I work for, it's automatic. There's a tracking. You don't do anything with it. I mean, you just, I guess, tape it,
Hmm.
box it, send it, and the tracking is already there. So I have my receipt just so I can have proof in case. I
Hmm.
started keeping the receipts because of that one time a long time ago where they were like, I haven't received it. And I'm like, but I did, I sent it. So I still keep them till this day. So I still keep my receipts. And once the item is there and they rated me, then I throw it away, go recycle it.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's important. You always want to make sure that you have some sort of proof. Um, there was another sorry, that was another question, but I think it'll come back here in a minute. Have you had experience in like Facebook Marketplace or any other platform that maybe you tried and you didn't quite like it, but
I don't have Facebook, so I've never tried Facebook, but one of my
Mhm.
cousins has done that and she really likes it. So, it's local for her. I don't really know much about it. But no, I have not tried Facebook. Only the ones that, like, I mean, I did try Depop. Nothing was
Mhm.
selling. I
Yeah.
did try the Poshmark. Nothing really was selling. They just kind of like your items and they're there for months and months and nobody's really buying them. So I didn't
Hmm.
want to waste my time. So if there's anything new, I haven't tried yet. But because I think I stick to what I know because I already know the system. I know how to use it. So being familiar with it.
Formula. So
Mhm.
probably just I guess for people that are getting started, right? Like maybe try different platforms, but just choose one and kind of stick with it. Is that kind of the rule of thumb?
Yeah, try all of them. Whatever
Mhm.
works best for you. Because I mean, depending on the items too, which mine were. Okay. Uh, Mine were kid items, toys, pregnancy clothes, and my type of clothes, which is what I was selling. So I think it does depend
Is
on the items you sell.
okay. And is there any like the platforms like I know Poshmark it's supposed to be like for maybe higher end clothes or more couture kind of clothes versus OfferUp, which is general kind of things, right? Is there specific platforms that I guess would like, for example, for moms, selling baby clothes, right? Would OfferUp do better than say a different platform just because they're targeting a certain demographics or not at all?
Baby clothes. So kids clothes, toddler clothes. OfferUp does good when you bundle. So you have a couple of
When you
shirts of the same size, a couple of pants, dresses, sweaters of the same size. You tell them like, hey, here's 10 items for $10 to $20, $30. And bundles they sell on OfferUp. And it's usually mom to mom where it's a mom and we're meeting up and if they like the items, they usually, add you, they follow you, and they know that you'll be posting more of those items. So,
gotcha.
you're like, okay, you got somebody who will probably like your items and buy them. On Mercari, I've tried bundles. Sometimes they sell, sometimes they don't. On kids' clothes, sometimes they just want to get 2 items out of 10, so you have to make a special bundle, which is flexible for me. I'm okay with that. So if it doesn't sell on both of the companies, I go to Once Upon a Child. There's three close to me, and I've tried
Hmm.
all three of them. And again, you stick with the one that was best for you. So Once Upon a Child is a store where they buy and they sell kids' clothes, toys,
Hmm.
books, and you just take your items. They say, hey, we're going to buy out of 30, we're going to buy 5 of these items for so much money. And you can either say, okay, or no.
Interesting. So that's a sort of like last like plan C. Like if things
Yes.
don't sell, that's a good way
Yes.
that they're gonna get purchased. Okay, so that's
Yeah. Yeah.
interesting. No, that's good. So you touched on a few things, and I think one is, I guess correct me if I'm wrong, but one is maybe find that niche, right? Like if you're gonna do baby toddler clothes, make your profile kind of target that in your listings, right? Maybe don't be all over the place, right? Because you mentioned on some of those platforms, you have moms that follow you or a certain audience, right? So if I want to sell, I don't know, keyboards and mice, right? Maybe set up my profile to where it indicates that I sell keyboards, maybe some mechanical keyboards, mice, etc. And I start attracting a certain kind of followers. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is true.
Okay.
Yeah, we mean even my husband, he follows people for tools. So he goes, I already know who to go to, and they talk. They're like, okay, I really like this person. Um, yeah, that's true. Finding what you want to sell. Ah, okay.
Okay. And I noticed a lot of it was like you source the clothes from your kind of, relatives, etc. But do you have any strategies on finding other clothes, like maybe thrifting or finding from, online deals and then buying them and reselling them? Or how do you actually replenish your inventory?
Okay. So once I've sold, which I think I have so far, I've sold a lot of my items from my household. There'll be times where we do go to thrift stores, and based on how long I've actually done this and just scrolling to see what is selling, what's not selling, you kind of get an idea of brands in your head,
Hmm.
where you're like, oh, this, a couple of these items are already selling so much. So there is one time that happened to me, and I was lucky that I noticed a brand that was selling, and I wasn't looking for the brand, but I noticed it. I saw it. I'm like, oh, this is the one. So you look at the
Yeah.
price and you're like, oh, 75 cents. It was actually a mug. So like, oh, 75 cents. Well, it's cute. If
Nice.
it doesn't sell, then at least I get to keep it. And I posted it, took the nice photos and the description, posted on 3 different company sites, and within an hour it sold for $100.
Wow.
I was
How
so
much did you buy it
happy.
for?
Like $75.
Wow.
I mean,
Okay.
cents, 75
Cents.
cents.
Wow.
It was a mug.
That's
And
almost that's wow.
yeah, that was a lucky once in a lifetime. But I mean, I look for that brand. I'm like, if I'm ever again at a thrift store, I'm gonna look for that brand, because $100 for one mug.
Exactly. No, you mentioned I realized that too, right? I see people kind of looking around, and I think once I call it like having a trained eye, right? Just like anything,
Yeah.
you start realizing the value of things, like whether it's a pen or something else. To I guess someone on the untrained eye, it might be something not worth much, right? But for you, you hit the jackpot, right?
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So is there any kind of I guess not necessarily strategy, right? But like for someone that maybe is just new, right? Maybe they don't have a lot of items to sell, etc. Is there a way that that you would I guess recommend someone to approach this if they want to start selling items online?
Can you repeat that?
Sure. Like, if somebody's just getting started, maybe they're thinking about selling items, right? But they don't know how to get started or what to sell. What
Mhm.
recommendations would you give them?
Um, I guess just starting. I think that's where a lot of, at least for me, it was a lot of fear of, well, I don't know it. What if I did mess up at the beginning, which is not selling it for the correct price, underselling myself
Hmm.
just because I wanted to sell it. So I started to, again, you have an item, you just go online, you research how much they're selling it for and how much it actually sold for. Because somebody could sell an item for $100, but it's been there for a year.
Yep.
Or you don't want to wait for a year. So, okay, maybe undersell it for less than what they had been posting and see if that sells, and kind of just be flexible about it. Try a lot of different companies, whatever works for you. I do want to try eBay. I'm still kind of scared. I stick with what I know, but I do recommend trying different companies. Everybody has their own favorite, what works for them based on the items that they're selling.
Gotcha. I guess another question is, when it comes to shipping, right? We kind of touched, that's the question I wanted to ask earlier. You mentioned the book, or the example of the book, right? So if I have a book, the book I'm trying to sell is for $10, but the shipping is $12.
Yeah.
How do you account for the cost, or is it that the person just pays for shipping, the buyer, I guess?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever done free shipping. Usually the buyer would do the shipping, which is why, I mean, I don't really sell books.
Yeah.
I tried because a lot of them were worth money. So you can either, if you have like a series, bundle them up,
Hmm.
and that's, that's more money for you and for them because you actually have the series. A lot of them understand the shipping. A lot of customers understand the shipping. They understand that it's a lot of money. It's not, the money doesn't go to me. The shipping goes to the shipper. So
Exactly.
um, for books, I mean, I usually do in person because of the shipping. Uh, and then I go to half price books if it's not selling in person. And price books has bought a lot of my books, not as much as I would want them, to be for, but if I have them and my aunt gave them to me, I'd rather just make something out of it.
Yeah, no, that's true. Make do I guess just do as much as possible as you can to do it, right? Okay. So I guess yeah, let's I guess just to summarize a little bit, right? Like one, if you're trying to get, online, start selling online items, right? Just get started, right? That's one. Two is once you're thinking about your whatever items you're going to focus on, maybe, stick to that niche, right? Even if those items aren't selling for 2 3 months, don't get discouraged, right? Don't lower down the price, right? Maybe have once you get started, right? If I am selling this pen and I want to sell this pen for $8, right? Sell it for $8. Don't lowball anyone. Don't lowball yourself, right? And
Mhm.
just if it's not selling in one platform, maybe post it in a different platform, right? Then the third one is be very descriptive, right? Maybe like you did, templatize it, right? So have a nice eye-catchy title, add as much information, right? If the pen is scratched, maybe take pictures of the scratch, right? You don't want your customers to have any surprises. Um, and then when it comes to shipping, right, most people will understand that, or just meet up with them locally at a public, safe location, right? Did that kind of summarize most of what we talked about?
Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, again, I only do this because I just need some money for homeschooling. So if I actually made it into a job, they were probably more into it. I will be more invested into it. I would probably have more tips. But
Yeah.
as a mom who's just trying to homeschool, this is what I do. It has been working for me. Hopefully, it works for other moms who just want some kind of money for school supplies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And a lot of, the baby clothes get reused, and most of them are practically new, right? They hardly get used. So, okay. All right. So, I guess I'll say for whoever's still online, we'll do questions in a little bit, but I guess kind of finalizing this, I wanted to ask you, what is your money mantra or your money motto?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm trying to learn. You know how your parents just did their best,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of things that they're still learning. So, based on what I learned, I like telling my parents of what I've been learning. I'm still learning. I mean, you want to be better for yourself, for your family, and I really like the live videos you've been making, to
Hmm.
exposing it to a lot of I'm first generation
Yeah.
American, so there's a lot on our plate and we're trying to learn, we're trying to share what we can. We just want everyone to just be the best that they can be, know as much as we know. I mean, maybe I'll start a blog on how maybe I'll help somebody, this
Yeah.
two other people. Yeah, I mean, money is just learning, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can and do what I can for my daughters because I want them to actually, know more than what I know now.
that's true, and that's part of last time I was thinking about how we throughout society everybody specializes in something, right? And we bring that knowledge together. So the last 500 years of generations have passed on certain knowledge to us, right? So to your point, right? There's no reason why your kids or their kids shouldn't know at least what you've kind of gathered throughout your lifetime, right? Otherwise, we're doing a disservice of not teaching them, right? And that's kind of part of the platform here, like you mentioned, first generation. A lot of it is, people coming from all over the world here, right? A lot of it, you don't. There's no. I was reading about this. Some places there's no concept of getting debt, right? Here in this country, you need to have some debt to build wealth, which doesn't make sense, right? In other countries, we would just pay everything cash, right? But it's a strange place, it really is, and you don't realize that because you kind of grow with it. But your parents, they didn't understand the system, right? So a lot of it, it's they're like you mentioned, they try their best, and we're here, but we should do better, definitely. And that's kind of the point of this conversation, right? To have a lot, representation, one, and then seeing other, either if they're moms or they just want to get started with selling online, to see a person that's actually doing right and it's working for them. And again, just sometimes seeing someone that looks just like you makes it a little bit easier to get started, right? So yeah, I'm definitely in that kind of same space. I know. I guess I'll give this few. I guess this time for you to promote yourself. If you want to promote yourself, you want to promote anything you want, nonprofits, etc. This is kind of your time to do so.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I don't really have a handle or a Facebook. I'm just trying to make it through life in homeschool.
Okay.
But I am learning in the process, on my alone time, my husband and I, we want to invest. We're learning about investing. It's something that's new, not normal for us. And I kind of have this fear to invest because it's money that you need right now.
Yeah.
But then you have to let go of the fear, and again, try it out. Just like I had to try out OfferUp and see how that would work for me. So recently, not that long ago, I started investing in a company, and this company was pushing, saying, "Hey, we want you guys to be our investors. This is for our comunidad."
Mhm.
And I talked to my husband, and I was so nervous. And he said, "No, you should invest. Save the money that you have and invest in them." And I'm still learning about it, but I'm happy. I love these books.
Nice.
The little littles, I love them so much. I bought them before when my daughter was young, when they came out, and they gave us the opportunity to invest for them, and I was so happy. I have a lot of their books over here,
Oh wow. Yeah.
and I'm excited to be an investor in their company because I love them. I believe in them. They're, again, they're Hispanic women, and something like that is where I'm starting off. I want to start with this small, well, not small, but this company, and learn from them and continue my growth.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. No, I mean it's always we're always learning, right? And like you mentioned, it's always nice to give for that money to stay within the community, right? I think I was reading when it comes to Hispanics and blacks, right? A lot of our money, once we get paid, it doesn't stay within our communities. Like after 2 or 3 transactions, it goes somewhere else, right? So it's really important, like you mentioned, find joint ventures or anywhere else where you can put that money to, right? Especially for it to stay around, people that look like us as well. But yeah, well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for spending time your morning here answering these questions. And I hope whoever's watching this finds a lot of value, at least to get or the motivation to just get started, right? So part of it is build those income streams. I know we all have items, right, laying down, so sell them right before they lose value, or some of them might, you might have a Rolex somewhere in there that's appreciating, or any other items. But yeah, all right. Well, does anybody have any questions? Otherwise, I think we'll wrap it up here. And yeah, awesome. All right. Well, hey, Liz, thanks again for joining us. And yeah, take care. See ya.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.